Marcus Reynolds stands frozen as airport security drags him away, his $3 billion acquisition contract clutched in his trembling hands. Ironically, the airline that humiliated him hours ago is the same one he's about to purchase and systematically dismantle. Through tears, he smiles. Justice begins now. Before I dive into this incredible story of justice served, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button if you've ever witnessed discrimination and subscribe to hear more stories of people fighting back against injustice. Now let's see how a moment of discrimination led to one of the most remarkable corporate takeovers in American history. Marcus Reynolds wasn't just any CEO. At 42, he had built Phoenix Technologies from nothing into a $5 billion tech empire that specialized in revolutionary software solutions. His story embodied the American dream, rising from poverty in Detroit's hardest neighborhoods to become one of the most respected business leaders in the country. As a child, Marcus watched his single mother work 3 jobs to keep food on the table. Their small apartment often went without heat in Michigan's brutal winters, but never without books. His mother insisted education would be his ticket out. She was right. Marcus studied relentlessly, earning a full scholarship to MIT, where he graduated top of his class in computer science. Starting Phoenix Technologies in his garage with just 2 employees, Marcus had faced every obstacle imaginable. Investors initially refused to meet with him. Banks denied loans despite his flawless business plan. Potential clients questioned if his kind could deliver sophisticated technology solutions. Yet through sheer brilliance and determination, Marcus proved them all wrong. By 2025, Phoenix Technologies employed over 4,000 people and had revolutionized cybersecurity systems for Fortune 500 companies. Marcus had been featured on the cover of Businessweek as technology's Renaissance man. His personal net worth exceeded $800 million, though you'd never guess it from his humble demeanor. Known throughout the industry for his fairness and philanthropy, Marcus donated 30% of his income to education programs in underserved communities. His employees received the best benefits package in the tech industry. He mentored dozens of young entrepreneurs from minority backgrounds, but those close to Marcus knew another truth about him. He forgave, but never forgot. Every slight, every doubt, every dismissal was cataloged in his brilliant mind. On this particular Tuesday morning, Marcus prepared for the most significant business trip of his career. Phoenix Technologies was finalizing the acquisition of SkyTech, a revolutionary aviation software company whose technology could predict mechanical failures before they occurred. The $3 billion deal would transform air travel safety worldwide. Marcus dressed with particular care that morning. His custom Italian suit, handcrafted shoes, and platinum Patek Philippe watch weren't about vanity, they were armor. In a world that still judged him first by his skin color, Marcus had learned that impeccable presentation gave him precious seconds to be judged by his character instead. "Everything confirmed, Mr. Reynolds," his assistant Zoe chirped over the phone as his driver navigated toward Liberty Airlines terminal. "First-class ticket, pre-check clearance, VIP lounge access, and your Atlanta team is ready for the signing ceremony. Weather looks clear for an on-time arrival." "Perfect, Zoe. Thanks." Marcus reviewed the contract details one final time on his tablet. The SkyTech acquisition would cement Phoenix Technologies as an innovation leader across multiple industries. The board had authorized the purchase after months of due diligence, and Marcus had personally guaranteed the performance metrics to nervous shareholders. As the car pulled up to Liberty Airlines' first-class drop-off, Marcus noticed several passengers doing double takes. He was used to it. People who didn't expect to see someone who looked like him arriving in a Bentley with a driver. Their surprise barely registered anymore. Walking through the terminal, Marcus mentally rehearsed his presentation to the SkyTech executives. This deal wasn't just business, it was personal. Growing up, Marcus had never even been on an airplane until college. Now he was about to transform the entire aviation industry. He had built his career on a simple philosophy: excellence leaves no room for excuses. When faced with discrimination, Marcus didn't waste energy on outrage. Instead, He channeled it into becoming so exceptional that denying his worth became impossible. This approach had served him well, until today. Approaching Liberty Airlines, VIP check-in, Marcus noticed the staff exchanging glances. A subtle tension crept into the air, like a barometer dropping before a storm. Something felt off, but Marcus dismissed the feeling. After all, he was just another first-class passenger with somewhere important to be. He couldn't have known that. The next 20 minutes would change everything, not just for him, but for an entire industry built on subtle discrimination masked as customer service protocols. Marcus approached the first-class line with his digital boarding pass displayed on his phone. He stood with the quiet confidence of someone who belonged exactly where he was. The boarding area buzzed with the usual pre-flight energy. Business, travelers on calls, families corralling excited children, airline staff moving with practiced efficiency. Flight attendant Heather Davidson noticed Marcus immediately. Her smile, which had been warm for the elderly white couple ahead of him, froze into something plastic and suspicious. Marcus had seen that transformation countless times before. The subtle shift when certain people decided he didn't belong. "Can I help you?" Heather asked with artificial sweetness as Marcus reached the front of the line. Her emphasis on "you" carried a weight Marcus instantly recognized. "Good morning," Marcus replied pleasantly, holding up his phone. "First-class boarding for Flight 1857 to Atlanta." Heather's eyes narrowed slightly. "Are you sure you're in the right line? Economy boarding is over there." She pointed toward the significantly longer line across the terminal. "I'm positive," Marcus replied, voice level despite the familiar sting. "I have a first-class ticket. See?" He zoomed in on the boarding pass, clearly showing first class and his seat assignment 2A. Heather frowned, her skepticism undisguised. "This doesn't look right. These tickets are over $3,000. Let me get my supervisor." Before Marcus could respond, she picked up a phone and spoke in hushed tones, glancing at him repeatedly. Other passengers had begun to notice the delay. Some watched with barely concealed interest, while others pretended not to look. Marcus felt his heartbeat quicken, not from anxiety but from the exhausting recognition of what was unfolding. He'd experienced variations of this scene throughout his life, though he'd foolishly thought his success had finally insulated him. Bradley Williams, the gate supervisor, approached with the deliberate stride of someone accustomed to handling situations. His face wore the practiced expression of someone who believed he was being reasonable, while being anything but. "Sir, there seems to be some confusion with your boarding pass," Bradley began without introducing himself. "Could I see your ID, please?" Marcus provided his driver's license without comment. Bradley examined it with exaggerated scrutiny, looking between the identification and Marcus's face multiple times as if confirming a forgery. "Mr. Reynolds, how did you purchase this ticket?" Bradley asked, his tone suggesting something improper had occurred. "Through my company's travel portal, same as I do every week," Marcus answered calmly, though he felt dozens of eyes watching. The interaction. A young woman nearby had her phone raised, seemingly recording the encounter. "And you're claiming this is your first-class ticket?" Bradley continued, emphasis on claiming, making it clear he didn't believe it. "I'm not claiming anything. It is my ticket, purchased legally, for seat 2A. Marcus kept his voice measured despite the growing knot of anger in his stomach. Bradley tapped aggressively on a tablet. "Our system shows some irregularities with this booking. There must have been a computer error." He didn't bother making his lie convincing. "We're going to need to verify some information. Step aside, please." Marcus didn't move. "What irregularities specifically?" "I've flown first class on Liberty over 30 times this year alone." Instead of answering, Bradley motioned subtly to two security guards who had materialized nearby. "Sir, if you could step aside so other passengers can board." The security guards moved closer, hands resting on their tasers. The message was clear: make a scene, and things would escalate quickly. The young woman recording had been joined by others, phones raised like silent witnesses. Bradley lowered his voice to a stage whisper that managed to be both quiet and perfectly audible to nearby passengers. "Look, we can resolve this easily. As a courtesy, We'll allow you to board with economy class passengers. We just can't verify the validity of this first-class ticket." The humiliation burned through Marcus like acid. He was being offered courtesy to receive what he had already purchased. Every instinct screamed to stand his ground, to demand respect, to call his lawyers. But the clock on the wall showed his Atlanta meeting was just 3 hours away. The SkyTech deal, thousands of jobs, years of work, millions in investment, hung in the balance. Marcus made the calculation that successful Black Americans had made for generations. Was this particular battle worth the potential cost? With the acquisition papers in his briefcase and investors counting on him, Marcus swallowed his pride. "Fine," he said quietly. "I'll board with economy." Bradley's smile held triumph. "Wonderful. We appreciate your understanding." The condescension dripped like poison. "Heather will escort you to the appropriate line." As Heather led him past the staring passengers, Marcus felt the accumulated weight of 1,000 similar moments, being followed in stores, questioned in hotel lobbies, stopped by security in his own office building. Each time he had risen above it. Each time he told himself success was the best revenge. But something different stirred in him now. Something colder and more resolute than the hot flash of anger he typically pushed down. As he joined the economy line, Marcus pulled out his phone and texted Zoe. "Document everything about today's Liberty Airlines flight. Get me their leadership structure, major shareholders, financial position, and history of discrimination complaints. I need it all by the time I land." Zoe's response was immediate. "On it. Are you okay?" Marcus didn't answer. When he finally boarded, walking through first class to economy, he noticed his assigned middle seat was already occupied by another passenger who had been upgraded. The flight attendant shrugged and pointed him to a cramped seat in the last row, next to the bathroom. As the plane took off, Marcus didn't review his acquisition notes as planned. Instead, he stared out the tiny window, watching Liberty Airlines' terminal grow smaller below. In that moment, a plan began forming in his methodical mind, one that would transform this humiliation into the most expensive mistake Liberty Airlines would ever make. Marcus burst through the Atlanta International Airport terminal, weaving through crowds with uncharacteristic urgency. His normally impeccable appearance was compromised. Tie slightly askew, a coffee stain on his shirt cuff from the turbulent economy flight where beverages had been carelessly handed out. Checking his watch, he grimaced. The SkyTech meeting started in 20 minutes across town, and Atlanta traffic was notoriously unpredictable. "Mr. Reynolds?" A driver held a sign, with his name. "I've been waiting at the first-class exit. Your assistant called to redirect me." "Thanks for finding me," Marcus said, following quickly. "We need to hurry." In the car, Marcus attempted to recenter himself. The $3 billion SkyTech acquisition represented years of strategic planning. Their revolutionary predictive maintenance software would transform aviation safety, potentially saving hundreds of lives annually. The Phoenix Technologies board had taken a significant risk authorizing the purchase. Everything depended on today's meeting going flawlessly. His phone buzzed with messages from Zoe. Video of airport incident going viral on social media. 3 news outlets requesting comment. Phoenix board chairman called, concerned about optics. Marcus silenced the notifications. He couldn't afford distractions now. The SkyTech headquarters loomed ahead, a gleaming tower of glass and steel. Marcus straightened his tie and stepped out of the car, projecting confidence he didn't feel. The receptionist's eyes widened slightly in recognition as he approached. "Mr. Reynolds, the executives are waiting in the penthouse boardroom." In the elevator. Marcus caught his reflection in the polished doors. He looked tired, the morning's humiliation etched in the tension around his eyes. He forced his shoulders back, jaw set. Weakness wasn't an option. The boardroom doors opened to reveal 6 SkyTech executives in perfect suits, led by CEO Thomas Harrison. Their expressions shifted subtly as they noticed Marcus's arrival from the public elevator, rather than the VIP entrance, his slightly disheveled appearance. "Marcus, we expected you an hour ago for the pre-meeting," Thomas said, not offering to shake hands. And your team? Traffic, Marcus replied simply. My team is coordinating remotely. Let's proceed. Thomas's eyes narrowed slightly. We were surprised to receive word that you arrived economy class. Not what we expected from a company proposing a multi-billion-dollar acquisition. The implication hung in the air. If Phoenix Technologies couldn't afford first-class travel, for its CEO, perhaps its financial position wasn't as strong as reported. Marcus felt the deal slipping before negotiations even began. A minor airline mishap, Marcus responded smoothly. Nothing that affects our business today. The SkyTech CFO slid a revised term sheet across the table. In light of recent market volatility, we've reconsidered some aspects of the agreement. Marcus scanned the document, anger flaring behind his professional mask. The new terms included a 15% price increase and onerous performance guarantees. They were sensing weakness and pouncing. Would you have stood your ground at the airport, even if it meant risking this crucial business deal? Comment number 1, if you believe Marcus should have fought the discrimination immediately, or number 2, if you think he made the right strategic choice to prioritize his business. Hit that like button if you've ever had to swallow your pride to achieve a greater goal. Just as Marcus prepared to counter, his phone buzzed with incoming calls from 3 Phoenix board members. The airport video was spreading faster than anticipated. Simultaneously, Thomas received a message that made him frown deeply. Is there something you'd like to tell us about an incident this morning? Thomas asked, turning his tablet to show a news headline. Tech CEO racially profiled by Liberty Airlines. Marcus's mind raced. The situation was deteriorating rapidly, but he recognized an opportunity within the chaos. He closed the term sheet. Thomas, let me be direct. Yes, I experienced discrimination this morning, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here because Phoenix Technologies wants to acquire SkyTech because your predictive maintenance algorithms are the best in the world, and combined with our security protocols, we can revolutionize aviation safety. Marcus stood, commanding, the room through sheer presence. The incident this morning is irrelevant to our business discussion. Unless what? Thomas asked, leaning forward. Unless Liberty Airlines is more important to your business than you've disclosed in due diligence. Thomas paled slightly. Liberty Airlines was SkyTech's largest undisclosed client, accounting for 40% of their revenue. A fact Marcus had suspected, but just confirmed through Thomas's reaction. The dynamic shifted instantly. Marcus wasn't just a CEO who had been humiliated. He was a strategic thinker who had just identified leverageable intelligence. As Marcus prepared to exploit this advantage, his phone lit up with a message from James, his chief of staff who had been investigating since his initial text to Zoe. Found internal Liberty communications, not a one-time incident. Passenger, quality control protocol specifically targets minorities in premium classes. Documented pattern. We have enough for legal action. Marcus's expression remained neutral, but inside, clarity crystallized. What had seemed like 2 separate crises, the humiliation at the airport and the suddenly precarious business deal, were actually connected opportunities. Liberty Airlines hadn't just insulted him, they'd handed him the key to their destruction. Let's take a 30-minute break, Marcus suggested calmly. I need to address some communications, and you might want to reconsider whether these new terms reflect the partnership we both want. Thomas hesitated, then nodded. As the executives filed out, Marcus made 2 calls, first to his legal team, then to his chief financial officer. By the time negotiations resumed, Marcus had a completely new strategy, one that would address both the morning's injustice and the business at hand in ways no one in the room could anticipate. What would you do if you discovered a company had a systematic policy of discrimination? Would you seek legal justice, business revenge, or both? As Marcus prepared to return to the negotiating table, he faced exactly this question. But the answer he found would shake an entire industry to its foundations. Marcus canceled his victory dinner reservation. What should have been a celebration of the SkyTech acquisition, which he'd salvaged through sheer negotiating brilliance despite the morning's setbacks, now felt hollow. Instead, he assembled an investigative war room in his Atlanta hotel suite. Put everything on the monitors, Marcus instructed as his team arranged laptops around the presidential suite. James, his chief of staff, directed information flow while Zoe coordinated remote team members. By 9 p.m., 12 Phoenix Technologies employees were working in synchronized determination. Liberty Airlines has 324 documented discrimination complaints, filed in the last 3 years, reported Alexis from Legal Affairs, pointing to a spreadsheet. 87% were quietly settled with NDAs. No pattern was officially established because they ensured cases remained isolated. Marcus studied the data. Find those complainants. See which ones might talk despite the NDAs. There's usually language allowing disclosure for legal proceedings. Already on it, Alexis confirmed. 7 former complainants have agreed to speak with us. Their stories are disturbingly similar to yours. On the main screen, a timeline populated with incidents. A black neurosurgeon removed from first class after a white passenger complained about feeling uncomfortable. A renowned Latina federal judge questioned about her ticket authenticity for 40 minutes until she missed her flight. A Korean tech executive seated in the back, despite his platinum status. This isn't random, Marcus observed. This is systematic. James nodded grimly. Their legal department processes these cases with assembly line efficiency. Standard offer is $50,000 plus flight vouchers in exchange for silence. They've budgeted for discrimination, Marcus said quietly, the realization igniting cold fury in his chest. It's cheaper for them to pay off victims than change their practices. A notification pinged on the center monitor. Liberty Airlines' public relations department had issued a statement. We regret the misunderstanding with Mr. Reynolds and are investigating the circumstances. Liberty Airlines is committed to treating all passengers with dignity and respect. Misunderstanding, Marcus repeated, the word bitter in his mouth. Show me my options. Zoe presented 3 pathways on her tablet. 1. Accept Liberty's inevitable settlement offer, likely $250,000 given his profile. 2. File a high-profile discrimination lawsuit seeking punitive damages. 3. Leverage Phoenix Technologies' resources. For a more strategic response, Marcus dismissed the first option without comment. The second felt insufficient. Courts moved slowly, and corporations had mastered the art of legal delays until public interest waned. What's behind door number 3? He asked Zoe. Something unprecedented, she replied, sliding over a confidential folder. But it requires resources even Phoenix might struggle to mobilize. As Marcus reviewed the contents, his phone rang with an unknown number. He put it on speaker. Mr. Reynolds, this is Richard Whitman, CEO of Liberty Airlines. The voice carried artificial warmth. I wanted to personally express my regret about this morning's unfortunate incident. Marcus signaled his team to record the call. I appreciate your concern, Mr. Whitman. These situations are always complex, but I want to assure you we're taking this very seriously. Our preliminary investigation suggests some confusion about our boarding protocols. Was the confusion about my first-class ticket or about my skin color? Marcus interrupted calmly. A pause. Mr. Reynolds, I understand you're upset. We'd like to make this right. Our legal team is prepared to offer generous compensation for any inconvenience. I'm not interested in hush money, Mr. Whitman. Another, longer pause. I admire your principles, but perhaps we should discuss this privately. Between businessmen, I'm sure we can find a solution beneficial to all parties. The implicit threat hung in the air. Take the money quietly or face consequences. You know, Marcus said conversationally. Before today, I never looked closely at Liberty Airlines as a business entity. That was my oversight. I don't follow, Whitman replied cautiously. Your company's financial structure, leadership demographics, pattern of customer complaints. They tell an interesting story. Mr. Reynolds, a story about a company that has monetized discrimination, Mr. Whitman. You've quantified exactly how much you're willing to pay to maintain a status quo that keeps certain people in their place. These accusations are unfounded and potentially libelous. Whitman's voice hardened. I'd caution you about making statements that could impact your own company's standing. Is that a threat, Mr. Whitman? It's a reality check. Liberty Airlines has relationships throughout the business world. Phoenix Technologies operates in a competitive environment. Bridges burned are difficult to rebuild. Marcus smiled coldly, though Whitman couldn't see it. Thank you for this call, Mr. Whitman. It's been illuminating. After hanging up, Marcus turned to his team. They just escalated this from principal to war. Get our technical team working through the night. I want to know everything about Liberty's booking algorithms, customer segmentation, and preferential treatment patterns. By morning, the results were staggering. Phoenix's best programmers had identified code in Liberty's booking system that flagged potentially disruptive passengers based on name analysis and demographic indicators. The system deprioritized these passengers for upgrades and triggered additional verification for premium bookings. More damning still, a former Liberty employee contacted Phoenix's tip line, providing internal documents about the company's passenger comfort initiative, a euphemism for ensuring certain passengers weren't seated near higher-paying customers who might complain. They've created a digital redlining system for air travel, Marcus said, reviewing the evidence. And they've hidden it behind algorithmic complexity and corporate doublespeak. As dawn broke over Atlanta, Marcus made his decision. A conventional lawsuit would take years and likely end in another private settlement with minimal changes. A media campaign would generate temporary outrage before the next news cycle. Neither approach would create lasting change. Marcus looked at his team, determination hardening his voice. We're going to pursue legal action, but that's just our public move. Our real strategy is something they'll never see coming. What exactly are you planning? James asked. Marcus turned to the window, watching the sunrise illuminate the city. Liberty Airlines discriminated against the wrong person at the wrong time. They didn't just humiliate a passenger. They handed their company to me on a silver platter. They just don't know it yet. As his team waited for elaboration, Marcus outlined a dual-track strategy so audacious it left even his most loyal executives momentarily speechless. Track 1 was conventional, a high-profile discrimination case designed to dominate news cycles and damage Liberty's stock price. Track 2 was revolutionary, a covert corporate takeover executed with precision while Liberty focused on defending its public reputation. By the time they realize what's happening, Marcus concluded, it will be too late. They thought they were dealing with an angry customer. They're about to discover they're dealing with their future owner. The Liberty Airlines crisis management team assembled in their Chicago headquarters before dawn. The company's stock had dropped 12% in pre-market trading following the viral video of Marcus Reynolds' treatment and his subsequent media appearances. Boycott Liberty was trending nationwide. Damage control options? Demanded CEO Richard Whitman, addressing the anxious executives around the polished conference table. Standard playbook, replied Vanessa Chen, Chief Communications Officer. We've issued the Committed to Diversity statement, promised a thorough investigation, and suspended the employees involved pending review. That's not enough, snapped Whitman. This Reynolds guy isn't taking our settlement offers. He's going scorched earth. Leonard Brooks, Liberty's chief legal officer, slid a folder across the table. We've initiated countermeasures. Our research team found several angles we can exploit to discredit Reynolds. Whitman flipped through the documents, detailed investigations into Marcus's past, business dealings, and personal life. This is thin. A parking ticket from college, a disputed software patent from 2018, a cousin with a misdemeanor. We're working on more, Brooks assured him. Everyone has skeletons. Meanwhile, we've contacted our media partners to run pieces, questioning whether this incident is being exaggerated for publicity or financial gain. Within hours, the counterattack began. A business blog published an article titled, "Reynolds Publicity Stunt. Is the Liberty Incident Manufactured Outrage?" A financial news site questioned Phoenix Technologies' recent performance. Social media accounts with suspicious creation dates began sharing out-of-context quotes from Marcus's past interviews. At Phoenix headquarters in Seattle, Marcus watched the coordinated assault unfold on multiple screens. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing with concerned calls from friends, family members, and business associates being harassed by reporters, asking leading questions about his character. "They're playing dirty," observed James, bringing in the latest media monitoring report. "Expected," Marcus replied calmly. "When facts aren't on your side, attack the messenger." Zoe rushed in with alarming news. The Banking Regulatory Commission just announced a routine examination of Phoenix Technologies' financial practices. The commissioner spearheading it is Gerald Fleming. Fleming sits on Liberty's board, Marcus noted. They're using regulatory leverage. The pressure escalated throughout the day. Phoenix's cybersecurity team reported sophisticated attempted intrusions into their systems. The Skytech acquisition suddenly faced additional regulatory review. 3 major Phoenix clients received calls questioning the company's stability. By evening, the attacks had grown personal. Marcus's elderly mother received visits from tabloid reporters at her Detroit home. His daughter's private school reported strangers attempting to access her records. His ex-wife was offered money for revealing interviews. "This is psychological warfare," said Alexis from legal. "They're trying to make you abandon the fight by threatening what you care about." Marcus's face remained impassive, but those who knew him recognized the dangerous stillness that had settled over him. He wasn't retreating, he was calculating. "Call an all-hands meeting," he instructed James. "Every Phoenix employee, in person or virtual, 1 hour." The company's auditorium filled quickly, with thousands more joining via secure video conference. Rumors had been swirling about Liberty's counterattacks and their potential impact on the company. Anxiety was palpable. Marcus took the stage without introduction. The room fell silent. "By now, you've all heard about what happened at Liberty Airlines and the subsequent attacks on our company," he began, his voice steady. "I want to address this directly." He paced slowly across the stage, making eye contact with individuals in the audience. "Liberty Airlines didn't just discriminate against me. They revealed a systematic practice of treating people differently, based on how they look. When challenged, they offered money for silence. When refused, they resorted to intimidation and character assassination." Marcus paused, surveying the rapt audience. "Some have suggested I should accept their settlement for the good of Phoenix Technologies. That fighting a corporation with Liberty's resources endangers what we've built together." His voice hardened. "That's exactly the calculation they expect minorities to make. Accept the injustice. Take the token compensation. Preserve what little you have instead of demanding everything you deserve." The auditorium remained completely silent. Phoenix Technologies was built to challenge status quo thinking. We succeeded because we refused to accept limitations imposed by others. I'm not fighting Liberty Airlines just for myself. I'm fighting for every person who's ever been told to accept less than full dignity and respect. Applause began, hesitant at first, then building to a thunderous ovation. Marcus raised a hand for quiet. "Liberty has underestimated us. They think they're attacking a civil rights complaint. They don't realize they're facing a strategic corporate response unlike anything they've encountered. This company, your company, will show the world that discrimination isn't just morally wrong. It's a catastrophic business mistake." The response was electric. Employees stood, applauding and cheering, as Marcus outlined a comprehensive plan to weather Liberty's attacks while advancing their own strategy. Technical teams would strengthen cybersecurity. Legal would file for protective orders against harassment. Public relations would maintain message discipline. Everyone would continue executing their regular responsibilities with redoubled focus. As the meeting concluded, the mood had transformed from anxiety to determined solidarity. Employees left with a renewed sense of purpose. They weren't just defending their company, they were part of a historic stand against institutionalized discrimination. In his office afterward, Marcus received unexpected news. A whistleblower from within Liberty had reached out through secure channels, offering internal documents proving the airline had systematically buried discrimination complaints for years. "This is exactly what we needed," Marcus told his core team. "Their aggressive response isn't just unethical, it's creating internal dissent. People with conscience are starting to break ranks." The whistleblower's documents revealed Liberty's customer profile optimization program in disturbing detail. For years, the airline had maintained databases categorizing passengers by perceived value and compatibility, with clear racial and ethnic patterns in their classifications. "This goes beyond my incident," Marcus said, reviewing the evidence. "This is class action territory." As Marcus's legal team prepared to expand their lawsuit to include dozens of previously silenced EWOS victims, Liberty made their most aggressive move yet. Through banking connections, they pressured Phoenix's primary lenders to review their credit facilities, threatening the company's liquidity during the critical SkyTech acquisition period. That evening, Marcus received another call from Liberty CEO Richard Whitman. "Reynolds, this has gone far enough," Whitman said, his voice tense. "You've made your point. We're prepared to offer $50 million and a public apology. Just sign the NDA and end this circus." "50 million," Marcus repeated thoughtfully. "That's what you think this is worth? It's a generous offer, 10 times our highest previous settlement." "You're still thinking too small, Richard," Marcus replied. "This isn't about a settlement anymore. What do you want? A board seat, policy input, name it." "I'll tell you exactly what I want," Marcus said, "but not over the phone. Let's meet face to face next week." After hanging up, James looked at Marcus questioningly. "You're not actually considering their offer?" Marcus smiled, the expression reminiscent of a chess master seeing 20 moves ahead. "No, but I want them to think I am. While they're preparing for negotiations, we'll be executing the next phase." Through the night, Marcus worked with his financial team, liquidating personal investments and securing commitments from aligned investors. By morning, they had assembled a war chest that would shock Liberty when they finally understood its purpose. "They think money can solve their discrimination problem," Marcus told his team as dawn broke. "I'm about to teach them that. Some things cost more than they can possibly imagine." The Phoenix Technologies boardroom crackled with tension. Marcus had called an emergency meeting, and the 12 board members shifted uncomfortably as he stood silently at the head of the table, reviewing documents. "Marcus," began Eleanor Richards, the longest-serving board member, "we support your fight against discrimination, but Liberty Airlines is retaliating against our entire company. The banking review alone has cost us 16 points of market value. Perhaps it's time to consider their settlement offer." Marcus finally looked up. "I didn't call this meeting to discuss settlements. I called it to inform you of our next strategic move." He tapped his tablet, and the wall screen displayed a complex financial model. "We're going to acquire controlling interest in Liberty Airlines." Stunned silence gave way to eruptions of disbelief. "That's impossible," exclaimed CFO William Chen. "Liberty has a market cap of $8.2 billion. Even with our cash reserves and credit facilities, we couldn't purchase more than 5%. "Not as a traditional acquisition, no," Marcus agreed. "But Liberty is vulnerable in ways they don't even realize. Have you ever witnessed someone turn the tables on their oppressor in spectacular fashion? Comment number 1 if you've seen justice served in real life, or number 2 if you're still waiting to see the underdog win. And don't forget to hit that like button if you're enjoying watching Marcus outmaneuver the airline that humiliated him." Marcus walked them through his audacious plan. While Liberty focused on public relations, damage control, and legal intimidation, they'd missed the financial restructuring happening right under their noses. Phoenix would lead a coalition of investors in a precisely coordinated strategy to acquire sufficient voting shares to influence Liberty's board. "Their stock is already weakened from the discrimination scandal," Marcus explained. "Our legal filings next week will drive it down further. Meanwhile, I've secured commitments from 4 institutional investors who've wanted governance changes at Liberty for years." Board member Rajiv Patel shook his head in amazement. "You're not just fighting back, you're executing a hostile takeover." "I prefer to call it corrective acquisition," Marcus replied with a thin smile. "Liberty Airlines has a systemic illness. We're providing the cure they refuse to administer themselves." Despite initial skepticism, Marcus methodically addressed every concern. Yes, the strategy carried risks. Yes, it required resources Phoenix had earmarked for other initiatives. Yes, it ventured beyond their core technology business. Sometimes opportunity and obligation intersect, Marcus concluded. Liberty Airlines didn't just discriminate against me. They exposed a business model that profits from division and prejudice. Transforming that model isn't just morally right, it's a sound business decision. Their technological infrastructure is a decade behind ours. Their customer experience metrics are the worst in the industry. With our expertise, we can revolutionize the company while eliminating discriminatory practices. After 4 hours of intense discussion, the board voted 10-2 to support Marcus's plan. Operation Phoenix, the internal code name for the takeover, was officially launched. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus orchestrated a financial ballet of breathtaking complexity. Using shell companies, proxy investments, and strategic partnerships, Phoenix gradually accumulated Liberty Airlines shares without triggering reporting requirements. Simultaneously, Marcus met with dissatisfied Liberty minority shareholders, securing their support for board changes. Liberty's leadership remained oblivious, focused instead on their legal and public relations battles. Their stock continued to decline as Marcus's legal team filed an expanded class action lawsuit featuring testimony from former employees about the airline's discriminatory algorithms and passenger profiling systems. The coordinated stock acquisition accelerated after Marcus appeared on Financial Insight, a premier business program. When asked about his dispute with Liberty, he offered a cryptic response. The airline industry is overdue for technological transformation. Companies clinging to outdated operational models and discriminatory practices will soon find themselves obsolete. Financial analysts speculated wildly about Phoenix's potential entry into aviation software, missing the real strategy unfolding behind the scenes. Liberty's stock dropped another 8% on the uncertainty. That evening, Marcus received a panicked call from Richard Whitman. "What the hell are you doing, Reynolds?" the Liberty CEO demanded. "Our stock is in free fall." "Market forces, Richard," Marcus replied calmly. "Investors don't appreciate companies that discriminate, then attack the victims. This is market manipulation. Our legal team is preparing. I suggest you direct your legal team to review your shareholder registry instead," Marcus interrupted. "You might find some interesting developments." The line went silent as Whitman processed the implication. "That's impossible," he finally whispered. "Check your facts, then call me back when you're ready for a real conversation about Liberty's future," Marcus said before hanging up. Within hours, Liberty's leadership discovered the shocking truth. Through various entities, Phoenix-aligned investors had accumulated nearly 30% of Liberty's voting shares. With support from dissatisfied institutional shareholders, Marcus effectively controlled enough votes to reshape the board of directors at the upcoming shareholder meeting. Liberty's executive team convened an emergency session, finally understanding they weren't fighting a discrimination complaint, they were battling for corporate survival. Whitman called Marcus again, his previous arrogance replaced by desperate negotiation. "Name your price to sell the shares back," Whitman pleaded. "We'll double your investment, plus a premium." "I'm not interested in selling," Marcus replied. "I'm interested in governance changes, starting with a board that reflects the diversity of Liberty's passengers and a leadership team committed to equal treatment for all customers." "That's corporate activism, not business." "It's both, Richard. The days of separating ethics from economics are over. Companies that discriminate will find themselves owned by those they discriminated against. Poetic justice, wouldn't you say?" As the shareholder meeting approached, Liberty attempted various defensive maneuvers: poison pill provisions, accelerated voting rights for friendly shareholders, even approaching regulatory agencies claiming national security concerns about foreign ownership, despite Phoenix being an American company. None succeeded. Marcus had anticipated every countermove, structuring the share acquisitions to withstand legal challenges. When Liberty's lawyers sought emergency court intervention, judges found no violations of securities laws or fiduciary duties. The night before the shareholder meeting, Marcus stood alone in his office, looking out over Seattle's skyline. The past month had been the most challenging of his career. He'd liquidated personal assets, worked 20-hour days, and endured continued personal attacks. But tomorrow would justify every sacrifice. His phone chimed with a message from James. Liberty Board offering conditional surrender. They'll accept 3 board seats and executive committee positions if we halt the proxy fight. Marcus texted back a single word: insufficient. He had not come this far for token representation. Liberty Airlines had revealed its character through discrimination, then compounded it through retaliation. Half measures wouldn't create the systemic change required. Tomorrow, Marcus would take control of the company that had humiliated him, not just to right a personal wrong, but to transform an industry. As he prepared his presentation for the shareholder meeting, Marcus reflected on how a routine business trip had evolved into an unprecedented corporate showdown. Liberty Airlines had seen him as just another black passenger they could mistreat without consequences. They were about to discover how catastrophically they had misjudged both the man and the moment. What would you do if you suddenly controlled the company that discriminated against you? Would you seek revenge or transformation? As Marcus prepared to enter Liberty's headquarters as its effective controller, this question weighed on his mind. The answer would determine not just Liberty's future, but potentially how corporate America addressed discrimination for decades to come. Marcus stepped through Liberty Airlines headquarters' revolving glass doors at precisely 8:30 a.m., flanked by James and Alexis. The security guard's eyes widened in recognition. One reached for his radio before a supervisor hurriedly intervened. "Mr. Reynolds," the supervisor said with forced politeness, "we weren't informed you'd be visiting today." "I'm not visiting," Marcus replied calmly. "I'm attending the board meeting as a major shareholder representative." The marble lobby fell silent as employees recognized the man whose face had dominated news cycles for weeks. Marcus proceeded to the executive elevator, his Phoenix team following with quiet confidence. They had prepared meticulously for this moment, the culmination of Operation Phoenix. On the 38th floor, Marcus was immediately confronted by Bradley Williams, the same supervisor who had humiliated him at the airport, now serving as an executive assistant at headquarters. Bradley paled upon seeing Marcus. "Mr. Reynolds, I didn't know you were expected." "Clearly," Marcus replied, his voice level. "I need to speak with you and Heather Davidson after the board meeting. Have her available." Before Bradley could respond, Richard Whitman emerged from the boardroom, face tight with barely controlled fury. "Reynolds, this is a private board meeting." Marcus handed him a legal document. "As representative of shareholders controlling 37% of voting rights, I'm entitled to board observation status. My attorneys have already communicated this to your general counsel." Whitman scanned the document, searching unsuccessfully for a loophole. Finding none, he reluctantly gestured toward the boardroom. "This doesn't change anything. The current board still controls Liberty Airlines." "For the next few hours, perhaps," Marcus replied, entering the boardroom where 12 board members sat in uncomfortable silence. Marcus took his seat at the observers' table, noting the board's composition. 11 white men and 1 white woman. Not a single person of color in leadership at an airline serving a diverse global customer base. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone present. "Let's continue," said Chairman Walter Bradshaw, avoiding eye contact with Marcus. "We were discussing the shareholder situation." General Counsel Victoria Harding cleared her throat. "As I was explaining, Phoenix Technologies and aligned investors have accumulated significant voting power. They've submitted board nominations for today's shareholder meeting that would replace 7 current directors. This is corporate raiding disguised as social justice," protested board member Gerald Fleming, the same man who had initiated the banking review against Phoenix. Marcus remained silent, letting them process the inevitable. The shareholder meeting would begin in 3 hours, and their control of Liberty Airlines would end before lunch. "Perhaps we should discuss transition options," suggested Victoria, the only board member grasping the inescapable reality. "Fighting this will only damage the company further." Chairman Bradshaw pounded the table. "Absolutely not. We've built this airline over decades. We can't surrender to some activist investor with a grievance." "My grievance," Marcus finally spoke, his voice quiet but commanding instant attention, "is shared by thousands of your passengers who have been systematically profiled, humiliated, and discriminated against. I've simply had the resources to do something about it." He opened his laptop, projecting documentation onto the boardroom screen. Internal emails, algorithm specifications, training materials, all revealing Liberty's systematic discrimination practices. "I have evidence proving Liberty Airlines has intentionally discriminated based on perceived ethnicity for at least 7 years, Marcus continued. "This material becomes public at noon, unless a transition agreement is reached before then." The room fell deadly silent. The documents displayed would not just end careers, they could trigger criminal charges. "What do you want?" Whitman finally asked, defeat evident in his voice. "My team has prepared a comprehensive transition plan," Marcus replied, distributing tablets with detailed proposals, 7 board seats, new executive leadership, full access to all systems and records, implementation of equal treatment protocols with external monitoring, and a victim compensation fund of $200 million. "That's extortion," sputtered Fleming. "That's accountability," Marcus corrected. "You have 2 hours to decide. An orderly transition or public disclosure followed by shareholder removal." Marcus left them to deliberate, using the time to visit the algorithm development department where Liberty's passenger profiling systems had been created. Accompanied by Phoenix's chief technology officer, he interviewed bewildered developers about their customer experience optimization protocols. Many claimed ignorance about the discriminatory impacts of their algorithms. Others admitted concerns had been raised, but dismissed by management. A few broke down, expressing relief that the systems they'd helped build would finally be dismantled. When Marcus returned to the boardroom, the atmosphere had transformed from defiance to resignation. Chairman Bradshaw spoke first. "We've reviewed your terms. The board will approve the leadership changes and other conditions, provided certain legal protections for outgoing executives are included. No immunity for discrimination," Marcus stated firmly. "Current leadership can resign with standard severance or face removal and potential legal consequences. Those directly involved in creating discriminatory systems have 30 minutes to provide complete documentation if they want consideration during inevitable investigations." After another tense hour of negotiations, the transition agreement was finalized. 7 Liberty board members would resign immediately, replaced by Marcus's diverse slate of aviation and technology experts. Richard Whitman would retire as CEO, with James serving as interim chief executive until a permanent replacement was selected. As the documents were being signed, Marcus requested a specific conference room for his next meeting. When he entered, Bradley Williams and Heather Davidson waited nervously. "You both remember me," Marcus said, taking a seat across from them. It wasn't a question. They nodded silently. "I want to understand why," Marcus continued. "Not excuses or justifications. I want to know why you felt entitled to humiliate me and others like me." Bradley stared at the table. "We were following protocols for passenger verification. Protocols that coincidentally targeted passengers of color in premium classes," Marcus noted. "Did you ever question these protocols?" Heather spoke hesitantly. I was told it was about fraud prevention, that certain profiles were higher risk. And you never noticed these profiles consistently involved people who looked like me?" Neither answered. "Here's what happens next," Marcus said. "Every Liberty employee has a choice. Those who perpetuated discrimination can leave the company with basic severance. Those willing to acknowledge past mistakes and commit to equal treatment can remain through a probationary period and retraining." Bradley looked up. "You're offering us a chance to stay?" "I'm offering a choice," Marcus clarified. "The airline I'm building will have zero tolerance for discrimination, but will value growth and accountability. You can be part of that transformation or not. Your decision." As Marcus left the room, he passed the employee cafeteria where dozens of Liberty workers watched live streams of the unfolding corporate drama. Their expressions ranged from shock to fear to, from some, visible relief that long-ignored problems would finally be addressed. By 2 p.m., Marcus stood before Liberty's assembled executive staff, now technically their leader. The room buzzed with tension and uncertainty. "Today marks a new beginning for this company," Marcus began. "Many of you are wondering about your futures. Let me be clear. This transition isn't about revenge. It's about transformation." He outlined his vision for the airline, one where excellence in service extended equally to all passengers, where technology enhanced the travel experience without encoding bias, where employees were valued for performance rather than conformity. "Some believe addressing discrimination comes at the expense of business performance," Marcus continued. "I'm here to prove the opposite. Eliminating discriminatory practices isn't just morally right, it's commercially smart. We've been excluding talented employees and alienating valuable customers based on appearance rather than merit. That ends today." As he concluded his address, Marcus noticed something unexpected. Cautious applause from some employees, growing stronger as others joined. Not universal support, certainly, but enough to suggest that many within Liberty had recognized its flaws and welcomed change. Later that evening, alone in the CEO's office, Whitman's name already removed from the door, Marcus allowed himself a moment of reflection. In less than a month, he had transformed from a humiliated passenger to the controlling influence of the very airline that had discriminated against him. The easy path would have been accepting Liberty's settlement offer. The expected path would have been a conventional lawsuit. Instead, Marcus had rewritten the playbook for addressing corporate discrimination, using business leverage to force systemic change from within. As he reviewed transition plans stretching into the night, Marcus realized this victory carried enormous responsibility. He hadn't just won control of an airline, he'd assumed accountability for thousands of employees and millions of passengers. The real work, transforming Liberty's culture and operations, was just beginning. Dawn broke over Chicago as Marcus surveyed Liberty Airlines headquarters from his temporary office. After 3 exhausting weeks implementing initial changes, today marked the official launch of his most ambitious initiative, the Equal Skies, corporate policy that would fundamentally remake the airline's relationship with passengers and employees. "Ready for the all hands?" asked James, entering with the final presentation deck. Marcus nodded, reviewing the document one last time. This isn't just about new policies. It's about changing the company's DNA. The main auditorium filled with hundreds of Liberty employees while thousands more watched via secure live stream from airports and offices worldwide. Anxiety permeated the room. The company had already experienced significant leadership changes, with dozens of executives departing and new faces arriving daily. Marcus took the stage without introduction, the room instantly quieting. 3 months ago, I boarded a Liberty Airlines flight as a passenger and was humiliated because I didn't fit someone's image of a first-class traveler, he began. Today, I stand before you not seeking revenge but offering rebirth. For the next hour, Marcus outlined the comprehensive transformation plan. Every Liberty employee, from baggage handlers to pilots, would undergo intensive training on bias, recognition, and prevention. Customer service algorithms would be completely rebuilt with third-party oversight to ensure neutrality. Hiring and promotion practices would be restructured to eliminate systemic barriers. But the most important change, Marcus emphasized, involves our fundamental approach to passengers. We're introducing Liberty's Equal Skies Promise, a contractual guarantee that every passenger will receive identical service quality regardless of appearance, accent, name, or background. The auditorium remained silent as Marcus displayed metrics, showing how discrimination had actually damaged Liberty's business performance, alienating potential high-value customers, increasing complaint handling costs, and creating legal liabilities. Treating people differently based on how they look isn't just wrong, it's expensive, Marcus noted. By implementing these changes, we're not just creating a more ethical airline, we're building a more profitable one. As Marcus concluded, the response revealed Liberty's cultural divide. Some employees applauded enthusiastically, clearly relieved by the new direction. Others sat with arms crossed, resistant to change. Most watched cautiously, waiting to see if these transformations would genuinely improve their workplace. Implementation proved challenging. the technical team encountered fierce resistance when redesigning Liberty's booking systems. Multiple developers claimed removing passenger compatibility algorithms would damage the airline's profitability. Marcus brought in external experts who demonstrated how these systems primarily encoded bias rather than legitimate customer preferences. Your algorithm flagged a federal judge as a service-intensive passenger because her name suggested Hispanic origin, Marcus pointed out during one contentious meeting.
She flies first class monthly and has never once requested special assistance. Explain how this improves our business. The developer had no answer. Resistance came from unexpected quarters. Flight attendants worried that standardized service as suarsal
protocols would eliminate their discretion in passenger interactions. Gate agents protested additional verification steps, ensuring all travelers received equal boarding experiences. Middle managers complained about documentation requirements designed to prevent discriminatory decisions. Through it all, Marcus maintained unwavering resolve. Those unwilling to adapt were offered separation packages. Those committed to change received support and training. Gradually, the culture began shifting, not through force, but through demonstrating. That equitable treatment created better outcomes for everyone. 4 months into the transformation, Liberty faced its first major test when Bradley Williams, now working in customer experience after accepting retraining, encountered a situation echoing Marcus's original humiliation. An elderly black woman, with a first-class ticket, was receiving skeptical treatment from a newer agent. Bradley intervened immediately, ensuring the passenger received appropriate service while taking the agent aside for immediate correction. He then documented the incident and recommended additional training for the entire team. When Marcus learned about Bradley's actions, he called him personally. "You could have looked the other way," Marcus noted. "Many would have." "I understand now what I didn't before," Bradley replied. "Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it." This small victory multiplied as former perpetrators of discrimination became advocates for change. Heather Davidson developed a training program helping flight attendants recognize and address their unconscious biases. Long-term employees began speaking openly about problematic practices they'd previously accepted as normal. The transformation accelerated when the SkyTech acquisition was finally completed. Marcus integrated their predictive maintenance technology, while Phoenix Technologies implemented revolutionary booking and customer service platforms. Liberty, now rebranded as Phoenix Air with a rising Phoenix logo symbolizing rebirth, introduced industry-first guarantees of equal treatment backed by automatic compensation for verified discrimination incidents. Media coverage shifted dramatically. Initial stories about revenge takeover evolved into analyses of revolutionary corporate transformation. Business schools requested case studies. Industry competitors watched nervously as Phoenix Air's customer satisfaction metrics climbed steadily upward. 6 months after gaining control, Marcus appeared on National Morning Today, the country's most watched breakfast program. The host approached skeptically. "Critics say you've turned a business dispute into a social justice crusade at shareholders' expense. How do you respond?" Marcus smiled. "Check our stock price. Up 28% since implementation of Equal Skies. Our first quarter results showed 15% revenue growth while complaints decreased by 60%. Turns out passengers prefer airlines that respect them. Revolutionary concept, isn't it?" Behind the scenes, the transformation took personal toll. Marcus worked punishing hours, dividing time between Phoenix Technologies and the airline. His health suffered, with doctors warning about stress-related consequences. Personal relationships strained under his absence. Old friends complained he'd become inaccessible. Yet witnessing the airline's metamorphosis provided compensation no money could match. Former victims of discrimination now served in leadership positions, their perspectives reshaping operations. Bradley completed his rehabilitation program and earned promotion to Diversity Implementation Manager. Even Richard Whitman, Liberty's former CEO, reached out requesting a meeting to discuss what he'd come to realize about the company he'd led. The most meaningful moment came unexpectedly. During a routine flight inspection, Marcus encountered a flight attendant who had been serving for 30 years. "I need to tell you something," she said privately. "I've been hiding my accent, And background my entire career because Liberty's culture punished ethnic employees. Since your changes, I've finally started using my real name on my badge instead of the Americanized version. It might seem small, but after 30 years of hiding who I am to keep my job, it feels like freedom. As Phoenix Air approached the one-year anniversary of Marcus's original humiliation, the transformation remained incomplete but undeniable. An airline once defined by systematic discrimination was evolving into an industry leader in equitable treatment, proving that moral imperatives and business success could align perfectly when leadership possessed both courage and vision. 1 year to the day after being denied his rightful first-class seat, Marcus Reynolds boarded Phoenix Air Flight 1857 from Seattle to Atlanta. The symmetry wasn't coincidental. He had specifically arranged to recreate that journey, though everything else had changed. The terminal buzzed with activity around a special podium where company executives gathered for the unveiling of Phoenix Air's Dignity Assurance, the industry's first passenger bill of rights with legally binding commitments to equal treatment, regardless of appearance, accent, name, or background. Cameras flashed as Marcus approached the microphone. 1 year ago, I experienced what thousands of other passengers had endured silently, discrimination disguised as company policy. Today, we're not just acknowledging that history, we're ensuring it never repeats. He revealed the Dignity Assurance Pledge, its provisions displayed on screens throughout the terminal. 1. Every passenger receives identical service standards based solely on ticket class. 2. All upgrade and accommodation decisions follow transparent documented protocols. 3. Staff receive ongoing bias recognition training with independent oversight. 4. Verified discrimination incidents trigger automatic compensation and structural TUR review. 5. Quarterly equity audits conducted by external experts with public reporting. The audience, a mix of employees, passengers, media, and aviation industry representatives, applauded as Marcus introduced key figures in Phoenix Air's transformation. Many were former victims of discrimination now serving as executives and program ambassadors. True change isn't measured by policies alone, but by who implements them, Marcus emphasized. 62% of our leadership team now comes from historically underrepresented groups, not because of quotas, but because we removed barriers that previously excluded qualified candidates. As boarding began for Flight 1857, Marcus presented the inaugural Phoenix Air Excellence in Aviation awards to employees who had championed equitable practices. Among the recipients stood Bradley Williams, once the supervisor who had humiliated Marcus, now the company's respected director of inclusive customer experience. Bradley accepted his award with visible emotion. A year ago, I was part of the problem, enforcing discriminatory policies without questioning them. Today, I'm grateful for the chance to help build an airline where every passenger receives the dignity they deserve. The ceremony concluded as Marcus boarded the flight, taking seat 2A, the same first-class assignment he had been denied a year earlier. As passengers settled around him, many recognized him, offering quiet thanks or respectful nods. Once airborne, the captain made an unusual announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, today marks a historic milestone for our company. 1 year ago, we failed our commitment to treat all passengers with respect. Today, Phoenix Air leads the industry in customer satisfaction across all demographic groups. The transformation began in this very first-class cabin, with a passenger who refused to accept discrimination as inevitable. Applause rippled through the aircraft as Marcus acknowledged the reference with a modest wave. The passenger beside him, an elderly black woman who introduced herself as Dr. Vivian Carter, leaned over. "I've flown for 50 years, she confided. For most of that time, I was randomly selected for additional screening, questioned about my tickets, and watched suspiciously by flight attendants. This past year on Phoenix Air has been the first time I've traveled without that constant anxiety. Thank you for that." Marcus was touched by her words, but the conversation was interrupted by his phone, buzzing with urgent news. The U.S. Department of Transportation had just announced new regulations requiring all airlines to implement unbiased passenger treatment protocols similar to Phoenix Air's Dignity Assurance program. "Your company's reforms are becoming the national standard," his assistant texted. Industry-wide change happening faster than anyone predicted. The achievement extended beyond aviation. Phoenix Technologies' merger with Phoenix Air had created America's largest minority-led corporation, completely restructuring two industries simultaneously. The company's market value had doubled, proving that ethical transformation and business success could powerfully align. Later that afternoon in Atlanta, Marcus entered the conference room where he had salvaged the SkyTech acquisition deal during the crisis. This time he faced a very different meeting. A congressional panel had requested his testimony about corporate responsibility in addressing systemic discrimination. Some critics claim businesses should focus solely on profit, leaving social issues to government and nonprofits, noted one skeptical representative. How do you respond? Marcus considered the question carefully. The distinction is artificial. Discriminatory practices aren't just morally wrong, they're economically inefficient. Phoenix Air's profitability increased by 38%. After implementing equal treatment protocols, we stopped excluding talented employees and valuable customers based on appearance rather than merit. That's not social activism, it's sound business. The hearing concluded with bipartisan support for incentivizing similar corporate transformations across industries. As Marcus prepared to leave, an aide informed him that Richard Whitman, Liberty's former CEO who had once threatened him, was waiting outside. The two men faced each other in a private room, the tension of their history hanging between them. I spent 6 months angry about losing my company, Whitman began. Then I watched what you've built from the ruins of Liberty Airlines. It's remarkable. It's what Liberty could have been all along, Marcus replied evenly. Whitman nodded, his expression complicated. I've been consulting with struggling regional airlines. Many face bankruptcy without technological modernization and cultural overhaul. I thought perhaps your team might consider partnerships. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus. The man who once dismissed his complaints now sought his business expertise. Have your people contact our development team, Marcus said after a thoughtful pause. Not because of our history, but because extending these changes industry-wide benefits everyone. As evening fell, Marcus found a quiet moment alone in his hotel room. On the desk lay 2 artifacts from his extraordinary year, his original denied boarding pass and today's dignity assurance. Pledge. The contrast between humiliation and transformation, between injustice and systemic change, couldn't have been more profound. His phone chimed with a message from Zoe. Phoenix Air just won Aviation Innovation of the Year for the Equal Skies program. Industry-wide adoption accelerating. Marcus smiled, reflecting on the unexpected journey. He had boarded a flight expecting routine business travel and instead found himself catalyzing a movement. What began as personal humiliation had transformed an entire industry's approach to human dignity. The final piece fell into place the following morning. As Marcus prepared to board his return flight, he noticed a familiar face at the gate. Heather Davidson, the flight attendant who had first questioned his first-class ticket a year ago. Mr. Reynolds, she said, meeting his eyes directly. I've been hoping for this opportunity. I need to apologize for my role in what happened. I've spent this year unlearning biases I didn't even recognize I had. And now? Marcus asked. I train other flight attendants to recognize and interrupt discrimination patterns, she explained. Your transformation program gave me the chance to become part of the solution. As they spoke, Marcus noticed a young black businessman watching their interaction while clutching a first-class boarding pass. The nervousness in his posture was painfully familiar, the tension of someone expecting challenge and humiliation. Marcus made a split-second decision, approaching the young man with a warm smile. First time flying first class? The man nodded cautiously. Well, you're in for an excellent experience, Marcus assured him, introducing himself without mentioning his role in the company. Phoenix Air takes pride in making sure every passenger receives exceptional service. Relief visibly washed over the young man's face as Heather approached, professionally scanning his boarding pass without question or suspicion before welcoming him aboard. Watching this simple, dignified interaction, remarkable only in how unremarkable it should have been, Marcus felt a profound sense of completion. The transformation was taking root, extending beyond policies into genuine cultural change. As his return flight soared over America, Marcus gazed out at the vast landscape below. His response to discrimination hadn't just changed an airline or advanced his business interests. It had established a new standard for corporate accountability, proving that the most effective answer to systemic injustice wasn't just protest or litigation, but fundamental transformation of the institutions perpetuating it. The Phoenix Air story had become a case study in leadership programs nationwide. What began with a denied seat had culminated in reimagined justice, not through destruction, but through visionary reconstruction that benefited everyone. This remarkable story teaches us that true justice often requires strategic thinking beyond conventional responses to discrimination. Marcus could have accepted the settlement or pursued a standard lawsuit, but he recognized an opportunity to create systemic change. His approach demonstrates that combining moral courage with business acumen can transform entire industries. The most powerful response to discrimination isn't always immediate confrontation or quiet acceptance. Sometimes it's methodical, strategic action that addresses root causes. Marcus didn't just win personal vindication. He created a blueprint for institutional transformation that benefited everyone. His journey reminds us that change requires both vision and persistence. The path from victim to changemaker involved sacrifice, risk, and unwavering commitment to a larger purpose. Most importantly, Marcus understood that dismantling discriminatory systems creates better outcomes for all stakeholders, employees, customers, and shareholders alike. The Phoenix Air transformation proves that ethical leadership and business success aren't opposing forces. By replacing discrimination with dignity, Marcus didn't just right a personal wrong. He built a more profitable, innovative company that became an industry standard bearer. What would you do if you encountered discrimination today? Would you fight back, document everything, and work to create lasting change like Marcus did? Leave a comment below sharing how you've stood up against racism or injustice in your own life. If this story inspired you, please hit the like button, subscribe to hear more incredible stories of triumph over adversity, and share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that one person can transform an entire system. Thank you for watching, and remember, the most powerful response to discrimination isn't just resisting what exists, but reimagining what could be.